preparedness and response in Assam. So yeah, Assam is one of the most flood-prone states in the country. And through this session, we want to understand the state of data, that is the kind of data that is accessible and used for decision making by different stakeholders for flood preparedness and response in Assam. We have Mr. Kripaljyoti Mazumdar from Assam State Disaster Management Authority and Ms. Bindu Aggarwal and her team from the Indian Red Cross Society as our panelists. Both these institutions are actively involved in flood preparedness, response and management in Assam. I'll quickly introduce Dr. Mazumdar. He has a doctoral degree in ecology and environmental science and has over 14 years of experience in developmental environmental management and disaster management. Currently, he is working as the project officer at ASDMA since the last 9 years. He will be speaking about the role of data and challenges in flood preparedness and response based on their work at ASDMA.
Thank you so much, Bianca and other teams from CivicDataLab for inviting us to this workshop. So my deliberation would be on the flood preparedness response in role of data and its challenges as far as the perspective of Assam is concerned. So this is the overall structure of the presentations, where we'll try to focus and try to get an overview of Assam in terms of the flood context. And we'll also go through the institutional arrangements as far as the flood is concerned. We'll also see the challenges in better flood response mechanism in the state, and also we look at the major interventions for flood data accumulation and data verification, how we do that. Then we'll try to ponder on some of the issues or the lessons learned over the period of time, and also we look at the way forward, how we can go ahead with that. So let's start with the overview of the state of Assam in terms of flood context. So as you know that the river Brahmaputra, the mighty river Brahmaputra, its tributaries and sub-tributaries has been one of the major issues as far as the flood is concerned. And it's a perennial problem. All of you will agree that almost 40% of our land mass is prone to flood. And as you see the land use map of Assam, so majority of the area is dominated by the agricultural land use, and that is one of the major issues as far as the damages are concerned. So if you look at the problem, the perennial problem, every year this our state gets affected by flood, and majority of the districts being affected, almost 60 to 70% of the revenue circles get affected. I mean, and also we encounter a lot of populations affected, a lot of human life loss also we encounter. And if you look at the trends of the population affected during last 5-6 years, so if you look at that, so you'll see that this population affected trends are in certain period of time during July, during monsoon regime period, so these are mostly being get affected. And apart from that, if you look at last year's data, then you will also agree that it was conventionally less affected as compared to the earlier years. So therefore, but one particular trend that we have observed at the end of the monsoon period during August, September, actually the highest peak period actually occurred last year during that September and October. So there is a changing scenario as far as the flooding pattern is concerned. Okay. So if you look at the socio-economic impact of flood in Assam, so basically it's again like there is an increase, rain variabilities, rainfall variabilities, temperature extremes. I mean, because of a lot of other factors, amalgamated with the climate change and other issues. So there are also issues of multiple disasters interacting with one another. That imagine the situations where like we are dealing under flood, and also in some areas landslide. We go through the landslide incidences. And there are also emergence of newer and secondary risks. There are significant impact in terms of economic losses, direct economic losses, and also this includes the recovery cost. And over the period, last over a decade, if you look, there are crores of, average annual rainfall reported, damages reported. It's on an average around 1,200 crores on an average every year that has been reported. On an average, if you look, more than around 4 million people get affected by flood annually, and 4.5 million people take shelters in the relief camps. So that is one of the major issues. Then, if you look at the increase in the impact of the disasters over the years, so I have shown some of the major flood damages over the period of time, over last 5 to 6 years. If you see that the impact of the disaster has increased, I mean, just ignore 2021 because it was suddenly a deep year. However, over the period of time, if you compare those data, then you will agree with me that the impact of the disaster or the impact of the flooding has increased over the period of time. Then, if you go to the climate-induced vulnerabilities, then you all will agree with me that there is a recent recent publication which which highlighted the state of Assam as one of the major vulnerable, as far as the highest vulnerable state in the entire country. As far as the climate change context is concerned, so the climate change is you all will agree that it's a global problem with local effects, and climate change is already making some other hazards like heat waves, heavy and erratic rainfalls. Take the example of drought affected areas of Korakothar area last year in 2021. So some of the districts like the Korakothar in Golaghat, they have seen extreme weather events in terms of the drought-like situation. So that is one of the major concerns for us. Then, if you look at the, I have already shown the land use patterns. So if you look at the land use, or land cover changes over the period of 10 years, last 1 decade, you will see that there has been a shrunk in major wetlands or water body areas. There has been a considerable shrunk in the forest patches or the forest areas, and these are really concerned as far as the hazards are concerned. Going back to the other institutional arrangement, so we have an institutional arrangement called CDMC, the Circle Disaster Management Committees. So these Circle Disaster Management Committees, they take stock of their Circle Disaster Management, the pre-flood preparedness meeting at the circle level, which is the lowest local administrative setup in Assam. So they conduct this kind of pre-flood preparedness meeting every year. And simultaneously, we also used to have the flood preparedness meeting in the DDAs, the district disaster management committees afterwards. So during the pre-monsoon period, we held these meetings, and they take stock of the preparedness measures at the district level, at the revenue circle level. I mean, all the administrative setup. Then, if you look at the new recent institutional arrangements, so we have come up with a new plan of introducing the flood preparedness assessment scorecard. Thanks to UNICEF, they have provided us a technology platform. They have helped us in developing this technological platform where we can define certain preparedness standards. We call them the minimum preparedness standard, MPS, and the minimum preparedness action. So we will try to score the district preparedness measures, and we will try to score accordingly green, like in different categories, green, yellow, or red. And then we will collect those data and we will try to analyze and interpret how much prepared a district is. And based on that, we will also announce the best prepared district and we will felicitate them according to their performances. So this is a very new initiative apart from the district disaster management plans or the flood contingency plan. These are contemporary kind of activities. So apart from that, also we are coming up with these new scorecards from BC. So you can access to this. So all the district can access to this link, and they can fill up all the 11 different minimum preparedness standards, and we'll try to promote a positive competition among our various district disaster management authorities to upgrade themselves for a better and effective preparedness for response. Then provisioning resources for disaster responses. So this is a common platform, we call it India Disaster Resource Network, so IDRN. So this is a nationwide web-based platform wherein our district disaster management authorities can update, and they can update their databases in terms of their inventories, in terms of various equipments, hazard-specific equipments, skilled manpower or human resources, wherever they are available, they can update those resources in this platform. And as far as, as and when the necessity arises, they can requisite those resources that are available in this platform. So this is one of the institutional arrangement. And as far as the relief method is concerned, until 2013, most of the response mechanisms were based on the earlier manual we called the Assam Relief Manual 1976. In 2015, we came up with Assam Disaster Management Manual 2015. So this has replaced the earlier manual, and we have also notified incident response teams at the district and state level. And this particular DM manual 2015 has also incorporated other hazards like earthquakes, storms, flash floods, or other man-made disasters also in that context. Apart from these things, we also have the state disaster management plan, district disaster management plan, and various departmental disaster management plans for 16 major key departments, which they keep on updating periodically. And then these are the major 20 departments, their roles and responsibility during and post disaster in different hazards. Very specifically, jotted down in this Assam Disaster Management Manual 2015. And the primary responsibilities, the activities and department-wise, responsibilities were laid down very meticulously in this disaster management manual. So in that way, this is a very solid institutional mechanism as far as the relief or response is concerned. Then going back to the challenges for the better responses, so there are certain challenges as far as data aggregation, transmission of data, and other things are concerned. So the first point is, which I'm trying to highlight, is unavailability of the precise data. Whereas like the department-wise, we don't have the interlinking of various departments in a common platform or the web-based application where all the departments can upload their data. Most of the times, these things are done in a silos or in a very paper mode. So there is no that kind of solution. So we are slowly trying to come up with certain other solutions as far as those department-wise damage assessment is concerned. So there is also unavailability of augmenting the existing hydrometeorological stations with the latest technologies. Although there are certain hydrometeorological stations are available mostly with the IMD or the RMCs, but we need further strengthening of those networks. Then absence of risks and risks address infrastructure development. Even the Prime Minister's 10-point agenda of disaster management also emphasized integration of the disaster risk management in all the developmental sectors, whereas it is not really it's not invite the way we think it should be. So that is one of another challenge as far as challenges is concerned. Then transboundary data sharing is another major issue. If you look at the Brahmaputra tributaries, even of Baragadi and tributaries and sub-tributaries, most of the tributaries, sub-tributaries in Brahmaputra also enters from the nearby state or the nearby countries. So transferability data, sharing particular data, hydrometeorological or hydrological data is one of the major concerns. So that is one of the major challenges. Being surrounded by certain hostile countries. So that is one issue. Then communications at your areas. So you all will agree with me that there are certain communications at your areas in our state. So because of we have certain districts like green districts where the penetration, the network, cellular network penetration is not at 100%. So that is why it is one of the major challenges. Setting up of a dedicated disaster management radio communication network is also another challenge. We should look into that, and we are looking into that with certain initiative in association with the Assam Radio Police or some police radio organization, and also dissemination of the targeted alerts. I'll talk about areas, early warning systems that are in place. So targeted alerts pertaining to the disasters with the minimum lead time. So that is one of the biggest challenges. So then last mile access to the information, because targeting the community through adaptation and modern technology is one of the major challenges. And also dissemination of early warning related to clues, lighting early warnings. So those are in place, but disseminating to the public is again major challenge. How we can go ahead with that. Reaching out to the administration is not a big problem. We have been doing that, but reaching out to the public in the stipulated lead time is major challenge. Another challenge is better and prompt damage assessment and reporting just after the occurrence of any disasters. So there is another issue of reach transfer mechanism. Assam being an agrarian economy, so we are mostly dependent on ideally one or two crops actually in our state, most of our farmers. So livelihood diversification has been one of the major sought issues where we need to discuss with all the related departments, and also reach transfer mechanism. Although PMGS Prime Minister's insurance scheme has reached out to certain pockets, however, it needs to be farm insurance schemes need to be highlighted or should be promoted among the farmers in a very proper manner. So that is one of the major challenges. Then flood early warning system, which is in place. So this is a system which we have introduced in collaboration with Northeast Base Application Center. So all our local administration, they have been getting those periodical updates. But going to the public is again another major issue. So then major intervention in terms of flood damage data reporting and verification. We have 24/7 state emergency operations center, district emergency operations centers wherein all the data compilation, all the geospatial technologies has been installed. So we are trying to come up with newer solution towards that. Recently, since last 1 year, we have introduced flood reporting information and management system, which is an online platform which enable all our field level functionaries to feed in data directly from the field instead of manual data entry. So this has really helped a lot in terms of enhancing the response time. So that is one of the major issues. Then major interventions like flood damage data reporting, verification. Other major interventions like communication technologies, geospatial technologies, warning and forecasting systems like flood hazard atlas, those are already in place. How we can better utilize those utilities, that is again point of debate actually. So then I don't have that much of time, so I'll just probably go through this lesson learned. Like intelligence coordination for better flood responses, we have well laid up emergency response systems where we coordinate with various flood response agencies like PHC department, and then in terms of search and rescue, rapid damage assessment, stocking of essential commodities, disseminating early warning, whatever we receive, and ensuring availability of the essential medicines and other essential commodities, arrangement of safe drinking water and sanitation facilities in the relief camps. Then also, adopting the IRS system, as I already mentioned, is IITs has been notified. So training and capacity building of these stakeholders, coordinating with the uniform response forces, and also plan department-wise preparedness, mitigation, and response recovery process. So these are few lessons that we have learned. So we also try to have a very agile governance and swift adaptation of technology in that term. So TRIMS has been introduced. We are also trying to have a communication technologies for better responses, information technologies. We also try to introduce the geospatial technologies so that we can better disseminate all the early warnings that we receive. Then we are also based on our learnings from things, we are also trying to come up with all disaster reporting and information management system. So this is in pipeline actually, so that we have a very automated data compilation and visualization system through which we can minimize the error-free data, and we can retrieve those data digitally. So these are certain initiatives or the lesson learned that we have. We have also introduced last year SOP on COVID specific, COVID vis-a-vis flood relief and management SOPs. So these are very specific. As far as FIA standards are concerned, so we have just enhanced those standards, looking at the SOPs that we releases for the COVID. So luckily, because of this new system and also the cycle in these cases are there, because of these new systems, we did not have not a single COVID positive cases in those relief camps where flood affected people took shelter in last year. Then programming a vulnerable, we are also targeting the vulnerable group of people, new initiatives like women-friendly community managed flood shelter with sanitary vending machines, child-friendly spaces, then also psychosocial support, then daily-based preparedness handbook for visually impaired groups. So these are all the new initiatives that we are coming up, and also community mobilization initiatives which we are slowly targeting to reach to all the communities. Then as far as way forward is concerned, we have already this is under process. Is about to go to the cabinet. We have come up with the Assam disaster risk reduction roadmap for 2030. So all the things has been incorporated here, all, in terms of resilience development and equity and inclusion of all the issues, then building existing governance system, integrating all hazard specific approaches by all departments, all the stakeholders can be taken in a single platform. So we are coming up with this particular DRR roadmap. So climate resilient villages, this is a project which is being supported by this is Assam Integrated River Basin Management Program supported by World Bank. So we are coming up with 100 climate resilient villages, flood shelters in 50 locations, and also certain circle level quick response teams so that we can augment community-based responses in those areas. Then I've already spoken about community-led response systems, security, Afghanitra, volunteers training program, volunteers training program, some technology-driven, rich communication to reach out to last mile connectivity, psychosocial interventions like Mazumdar. So these are available here. Then data analytics for decision support like teams and dreams, and also the multi-purpose flood shelters. We are already constructing 3 from our own fund. In Mazuli, Borbeta and Lakhimpur district. As I mentioned earlier, in the BMP project, we are again coming up with another 50 multipurpose flood shelters. The DPR is already in process in 6 districts, namely Vishwanath, Bindu, Sonitpur, Shivsagar, Golaghat and Mazuli under this World Bank supported program. So these are few way back and lesson learned that we have, and we are looking for in this perspective. And that's all from my end. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking us through the initiatives that ASDMA has taken. I wanted to know a bit more about the data that ASDMA collects at sub-district level and the challenges you face in terms of utilizing that data, in terms of processing that data and using it finally for decision making.
Yeah, earlier, responding to your question, which is basically for data collection at sub-district level and challenges in collating and processing it for decision making. Yeah, I mean, initially it was prior to 2021, we basically all the data collection has been done manually, and it is a very rapid process where all our field level functionaries they engage 24/7 in entering all the data, manually transmitting all these things, and collating and compiling it at the state level. So that was a kind of big challenge for us. Because of this PRINCE initiative, so field level functionaries like field officers get much time to responding to the actual disaster, to giving reliefs to the victims rather than devoting as much of his time in compiling the report, sending it to the district level, and then in district level again compiling the same report, like the donkey's work. That same report you are compiling at the revenue cycle level, at the district level, and the same report at the state level. So just to ease that, the entire process, we have come up with this information management system, where reporting information management system, wherein UNICEF and other agencies have also helped us in developing that system. So that has been a good learning experience for all of us. I hope I have covered their questions. I answered that part.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to ask if any of the participants have any questions for Dr. Mazumdar.
Dr. Kripal, I want to know if, because this PRINCE system is very unique, which is being deployed in Assam, and the kind of information which is collected and published by PRINCE is of huge importance to the whole research community who is trying to work on floods. Not just in Assam, but other geographies can also benefit from it. So, wanted to check if there is a possibility to connect PRINCE data to data.gov.in, which is our Government of India's official open data platform, so that the PRINCE data, which gets updated on a daily basis, either through API or through some daily or weekly upload, can come to data.gov.in so that it can benefit the wider research community. Is there a possibility of doing something like that?
Well, definitely, thank you so much for this suggestion. We'll definitely explore that, and we'll definitely explore that possibilities, how we can connect those APIs so that we can have a weekly or maybe, because there are certain permutation and combination as far as the accumulating the cumulative data. So maybe weekly or monthly we can upload that, or maybe at the end of the season we can upload the entire season's cumulative report at one day. So that can be one of the possible solutions. Or how we can do that weekly or daily, that also we have to look into the technological possibilities. Being a non-technical person, again I have to depend on some other experts like you, or maybe the experts who are providing help us in designing or developing these platforms. So thank you so much for that suggestion. I have lucky to have with you today, but I have certain time constraint actually, so that's why I requested Bianca and your team to just to leave me by 2:30, so that I have to go to railway station and catch my train. So I'm outside Guwahati, so I'm going back to Guwahati right now. So sorry for that. So anyway, best of luck for the other deliberation. I was really looking forward to listen to other, the recorded, session of other speakers as well. Thank you so much. I'm taking a lead from this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I'll introduce Ms. Bindu Aggarwal, and Ms. Bindu Aggarwal is currently the focal person for Global Surge Roster and the project manager on Flood Early Warning Project at the Indian Red Cross Society. Her work includes designing projects related to integrated risk management, climate change adaptation and disaster resilience. She is here with her team to speak about Indian Red Cross Society's work on flood preparedness and response in Assam.
Thank you so much, Bianca, for having us here. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so Bianca and team, I am joined by Dr. Anthony Nanamathu. He is Senior Operation Manager with International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and he has over 20 years of experience in disaster response and preparedness, and he has worked in various countries. He is sitting beside me here, and you can see him on your screens. And also I am joined by Mr. David Kujur. He is our consultant at Assam State Branch of Indian Red Cross Society, who is looking after our flood early warning project in Assam, for which I will be shortly talking about. So I will be sharing my screen, and we will move the discussion forward. The project name is Flood Forecast Community-Based Program in India, which we are handling here, and we are invited to talk about. It is funded by google.org, and we are supported by International Federation of Red Cross in the delivery of this project in India. We are taking this up in 2 states of India, Bihar and Assam. A short brief about Indian Red Cross Society. We are a 100-year-old organization, and we were established in the year 1920 under an Act of Parliament. And we have our presence in all the states and UTs of India, 36 of them, and we have more than 1100 district and sub-district branches in India. And we have membership at the school level, at the college level, and at the adult level we have life members, we have institutional members, and we have paterns and vice paterns. And every year we reach around 2 million people through disaster response and recovery, and we provide blood services in India, and we also support community through our development programs, which are of very wide range. This project, as I mentioned, we are implementing in India in collaboration with IFRC and Google in 4 districts of Assam, Majuli, Morigaon, Dhimaji and Lakhimpur, which are most vulnerable to floods. It is a community-based program based on scientific data from Google, which Google in turn is fetching from CWC, and they release a flood alert. And this flood early warning system, it aims to empower the persons who are at risk, who are vulnerable, to take some action to save their lives. So the goal of the project is to save lives and to protect livelihoods of vulnerable communities, and also to achieve last mile connectivity in the rural areas, in the villages where people are devoid of digital connectivity, and so on and so forth. The communication strategy is like currently it is a peace area, there is no flood, no monsoon. During these periods we predetermine the vulnerable geographies in our project locations, and we build community volunteer group. We train them in how to fetch the alerts, we spread alert literacy, we talk with opinion leaders, we impart community preparedness, and we also create preparedness and response committees at various levels. And at micro level, the communication strategy is through WhatsApp groups, through one-to-one information like door-to-door information, and pre-monsoon community meetings just before the monsoon. We go into the community, talk to them, and activate our volunteers that the monsoon period is arriving, and how you have to disseminate the information about this flood early warning. There is a short guide on Google Alerts, which I will be describing now. So here, this Google, it has a collaboration with Central Water Commission. They are getting entire data from CWC, and they apply artificial intelligence, and after doing that, they come up with a alert which is visible in the mobiles, as you can see on the right hand side of your screens. If you have a smartphone, you have internet connectivity, and the location of the mobile is on, and you are in a flood prone area where flood is going to happen, this alert will automatically appear in your mobile. You can tap it and you can fetch more information on this. So these are the places for where the alerts are available, but we are currently implementing this in Bihar and Assam. There are 3 districts in Bihar and 4 of them in Assam. There is also a notification attached. It is a 2-line description which is available in English and Hindi, and for trying to give the information in Assamese also. And while we tap this, we can see water level is mentioned. Is it going up or down? If the arrow is down, then the water is receding, and if it is going up, then the water is rising. And then the water level has to be compared with the danger level water or high danger level water, the forecast water level. And if it is still higher than the danger level, then the alert has to be disseminated in the community. And it is also accompanied by a map. People can tap on the map, zoom in, zoom out, and see the locations where the flood is going to happen. So as I mentioned, it is location based. Location has to be on. Your mobile must have internet, and the information is also available in local languages, and the information is updated every 12 hours. On the top of the screen, you can see small capsules, and in each capsule, the name of a location is written. When an alert is released, it is for a broader area, but you want a specific information for a specific location in a specific street in your area, then you can tap that capsule and you can get the information about that particular location and see whether the water is rising or falling for the next 12 hours. And it is attached with a 1-line description which you can read and see the forecast time. And in the map, there is a color-coded legends below that. If it is a dark or deep red color, then the flood is going to be very severe. But if it is not that dark, then moderate, and still lighter, then still moderate kind of flooding. And if it is colorless, then there is no flood forecast. So this way, the map is visible. And on the right hand side, you can see a red dot, and along with the dot, it is written severe flood alert. If you want the information for that location, you have to simply tap on that location and zoom in into that location, and you can see the areas which are going to be inundated in that particular location. And once you tap, the description related to that area will appear on your screen, and you can share this message with other persons also. This is a small GIF which shows how information actually appears when it is a flood season. It can also be, if we are registered with Google, we can get this information in our emails. So earlier we used to get this in our emails also, and on the top of the message, the name of the station is written, the area and river on which river the flood is going to happen, the current water level or the observed water level along with the time and date, and the forecast for which the water has been alerted, then the station reference levels, what are the reference levels for the danger level, for the warning level or the highest flood level, and then there is a link to the alert map. There is also a link to get the information in Hindi, and also alert 1-line description. Again, there is a map. So what to do with these alerts? We can help other population, we can notify them, we can disseminate this information so that they can save their lives, and also we can encourage other persons who are not aware about this to get this information on their mobiles and look around for these notifications. This is something very interesting. Mostly the information or the alert or the early warning which is provided for the flood is for a broader area. But in case there is some very important building or a location like a railway station or a hospital or a mosque or a temple where there is large congregation of people and which is prone to flood, and you want that an early warning for that specific location be made available, then a request can be placed and hyper local information can be generated. And we have done this in the past for one mosque in Supol area which falls in Bihar with exact timing mandate. So this was about how this information can be accessed through Google browser. There is also a dashboard. Dashboard has all the available alerts for India and Bangladesh. Currently the dashboard, it is empty, so there is no use of showing it. It is also having a map, also the description of the areas, the current water level and the expected water level. One can go and see, like persons like us who are sitting in New Delhi and we want to know where the flood is coming. We can directly go to the dashboard, see the areas, and we can plan our response in advance for those areas where the flood is happening. Earlier it was found that these kind of presentations, these are not useful for the community when we go into community for teaching them or spreading literacy about the alerts. So a few training videos they were developed, and currently I am going to show this training video in English. Otherwise we have in Assamese or Hindi also. I will just show the video which explains how to fetch this.
In flood-prone areas, we are accustomed to dealing with floods, but having advance warning will help us better prepare. In this video, we will explain how Google is predicting floods and notify you directly if you are located in an area with potential flood danger. When Google identifies that your current location is flooded or is forecast to be flooded, Google will send a push notification to your smartphone. In order to receive this push notification, ensure that the location services on your smartphone are enabled. To do this on most smartphones, you can swipe to the top of your screen and select the location if not enabled already. Now that the location services is enabled, you'll receive push notifications related to flood alerts. When you're in a location that we predict will be flooded, you might receive the notification that you see here. The notification will include the river name and the flood severity level. In some cases, it may also include the forecast time and how high the water level at the river is expected to rise. Clicking on the push notification opens a flood alert. This alert can also be found in a direct Google search for the term floods. You can also search for floods at specific locations. By looking at the alert, you can check out important flood information. First, in the red bar there is the flood severity level that represents the impact of flooding for the entire area. Below you can see the expected change in the water level. The arrow indicates whether the water is forecast to fall or rise in the next couple of days or hours, and the number indicates the expected change in the water level. In some cases, you may also see the risk level for your village. That represents the water depth of the flood. You can browse between village capsules at the top to view local flood situations. At the bottom, there is the map of expected inundation of the entire area. The different colors represent water depth or flood probability as described below in the map legend. You'll see that each red tone represents a different water depth or flood probability. The stronger the red, the deeper the water, or the higher the probability is for flooding. Clicking on the map opens the alert over Google Maps, where you can zoom in to a specific location and view areas that are expected to be flooded. While in Google Maps, you can search for specific locations and see alerts on the map directly. When you are notified by a Google Flood Alert, please use your local communication channels to share this information with people around you that might be in danger. All right. During initial years,
when this alert was given by Google, and we started disseminating it among community. Google, it was very keen to know about the efficacy of the message, and last year we spoke with the community and we told them that the message was true enough. And just to ensure the efficacy of the message, they developed a tool which is called Flood Hub. On the Flood Hub, if we click, we can go into the Help Me section, and we can actually submit our response on the flood and on the flood information, on the flood alert, and submit it if the alert which was released was up to level or not. So I'm taking you to that Flood Hub.
The Flood Data Hub will provide you advanced flood information on the localities of your interest. Please use your local communication channels to share this information with people around you that might be in danger. In addition, once you are in a flooded area, you can provide us with the water depth at your location so we can improve our models using real-time data. To open the Floods Data Hub, please go to g.co/floodhub. Here you can see the map of your area with available localities in 2 cards below. The top card provides a quick view of the top localities of your interest. Click on each locality to open the page where you can see the map with inundation extent, area coverage in percentage, and in some cases the water depth estimate. This information is available for current time and for the forecast, which is usually up to a couple of days in the future. This part shows the expected water change in the river at the time of the forecast. This number represents the part of the locality area that is flooded and how it changes in the forecast. This graph represents the locality estimated water depth in reference to body parts now and in the forecast. For example, this graph states that the water depth is forecast to be at chest level. Looking at the map allows you to view which areas of the localities are flooded. The map can be enlarged, and you can zoom out to view further localities from your area. You can also select previously viewed localities from the top of the map. Localities that you want to continue to track, you can mark as favorite by clicking on the star at the locality page. In the locality page, and also in the main page, you can report on current water level. Once you click on the Help Us Measure button, select the best estimate of water depth at your current location and click Submit. If you wish to provide data on a location you visited earlier in the day, you can edit the time or the location before you submit the report. Please make sure to share this flood alert on your local communication channels with people around you that might be in danger.
This is to ensure if the alert release is in order or not. In the year 2021, we were trying to reduce the impact of monsoon on community through focus on our own institutional coordination and increasing our capacities in terms of training and preparedness. And this year also we aim to improve our preparedness for this monsoon and reduce the flood impact for hard to reach communities in our target areas. And in 2023 we will continue, and we will also look for the sustainability of this project and alert literacy among the community so that they can automatically access the information and save their lives, and they do not require external assistance for fetching the information or the early warning. We have selected 78 panchayats in 4 districts, and in the last year we were able to train 46 panchayats, and we also prepared war contingency plans in those panchayats. At least 10 volunteers per panchayat they were trained, and they in turn trained their peers and their community, their neighbors who own smartphone, how to access this early warning in their mobiles. So here you can see a few pictures where our volunteers, they are sitting with the community and training them and interacting with them. Initially, we held a state level training program at Guwahati, and where we trained 10 volunteers from the state and 10 each from all the districts, and they became our master trainers. Like we had 50 master trainers, and they later on went into the panchayats and they identified volunteers who own mobiles in consultation with the panchayat leaders, and then they trained those volunteers at the panchayat level, who in turn went into the community, and they later on trained more community members in and around their area. So along with this, we have also set up small control rooms in all our districts and state branches, which have minimum facility of LCD screen, Wi-Fi, laptops, volunteers sitting there, mobile connection, so that around the clock they can monitor these alerts 24/7 during the monsoon period, and they can pass on information to from state to panchayat and state to district and district to panchayat, and from panchayat at the panchayat level each volunteer has his own WhatsApp group sending the information to community, and from there the information it spreads through the by word of mouth. There is another tool which is called DDRT, SDRT and NDRT. At the district level we have district disaster response teams, and a few selected volunteers from them they are trained into SDRTs, state disaster response teams, and a few of them they are trained in NDRTs, national disaster response teams, who are mobilized during a disaster and who can also help in response operations. And during response we distribute NFIs, non-food items, among community. Before distribution of the NFIs, an assessment is done, a need assessment is done in the affected area, and as an outcome of that, the items they are distributed. Items they consist of tarpaulins, tents, and kitchen sets, the hygiene kits, the clothing, utensils, buckets, and all these kind of things are distributed among the community. We also aim to coordinate through these control rooms, the DREF, BF and warehouses. We have our regional warehouse in Guwahati at Numati. And DREF is Disaster Response Emergency Fund, which is activated when any hazard or disaster happens in an area. So through this tool, an emergency appeal is made internationally, and funds are collected and they are given to the National Society. In our case, we are the National Society Indian Red Cross, and through these funds, these items which I mentioned can be bought and they can be distributed by mobilizing our volunteers who are already trained. And also there is one more tool which is called forecast-based financing. Forecast-based financing speaks more about anticipatory humanitarian action. So by virtue of alerts and early warning, if we have good quality alerts and there is enough of lead time, there is no need to wait for a hazard or disaster to happen. In anticipation of a disaster, the actions can be taken, the people can be mobilized to safer places, the relief items can be distributed among them, and this saves their lives, their livelihood and their livestock timely. And this also stops the distress sale of their household items, which they generally do. Okay, so I'll play this video. This way it functions generally, and this video was taken during monsoon period. So the whole screen, it is filled with alerts from various places across India and Bangladesh. This way our volunteers, they sit there and get information, and also they document the information which they are passing on to districts and panchayats, so that later on if some confirmation is to be done can happen. Okay. We are also preparing award flood contingency plans. These award contingency plans, they help us in predetermining the vulnerable population, the vulnerable areas, the hard to reach locations, and also the capacities which the community already have. There are 4-5 kinds of maps which are there, like resource map, the social map, the hazard map, the networking and the vulnerability map. It also contains 4 W's, what, when, why, and 1 H, which is how, before, during and after disaster, which speaks about the delineation of roles of various volunteers, what they are required to do before, during and after the disaster. And it contains the list of vulnerable population, like female headed households, the families which are having elderly person, and also the persons with disability. So that data is there. And also if there is a house which is located at a remote location, which is hard to reach, or the road is broken, for those locations also data is maintained, and also where they can move in case a flood has occurred, any nearby shelter or a place where they can evacuate in case of a flood situation. And the capacities they have, many a times the small panchayats, they own their own boats, and with the help of those boats they can evacuate. So such kind of capacities they have, they are also mentioned in the contingency plan, and a ward committee is prepared, and their mobile numbers, they are mentioned into it. And it consists of a ward member, Aggarwal worker, Asha worker, school teacher, and elderly person. So 4-5 members, they are there, and these contingency plans, they are prepared there in the community with their participation, so that they own this process and it is not only a document. Through this project, we are trying to achieve last mile connectivity, because there are a lot of organizations who are working in flood early warning, and good quality alerts are available. But it becomes difficult to take this information to the end user who are sitting there in the remote areas. So we at IRCS, we are not doing any kind of modeling or any kind of data analysis. We are getting ready-made information from Google, and we are just spreading alert literacy. We are acting as a bridge between that information and the people who are sitting in the villages, in the rural areas, making this information accessible to the persons who are in the remote places. With the help of our volunteers, with the help of these ward contingency plans, with the help of our control rooms, we are trying to achieve sustainability of this thing, so that tomorrow the community, it can access this information on its own, and we are nowhere into the modeling process. So if there is any question, I would be happy to take.
Thank you for taking us through your work on flood reporting and alert systems. I open the floor for questions.
Hello ma'am, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I was curious about where in India has this model been deployed, and what has been your experience with the accuracy of it? Especially when we are going down to the level that you spoke about, particular locality, particular alley.
I get you correct. Are you asking about how accurate is the message?
Yeah, in your experience till now, how accurate has it been, especially at a very small hyperlocal level?
Yes, we can share the experience of last year, 2021. And the information that is provided by Google actually is received from Central Water Commission, CWC. also from AMD, and this information is routed through artificial intelligence and from satellite. The Google is able to predict the information at least 28 hours to 48 hours before time. And this is what we have seen last year in 2021. We have done a few mock drills, around 96 mock drills. These mock drills were predicting that before the monsoon coming in, and we have seen that almost the information because we got information both feedback both at the bottom up and also from the top down, so we could confirm that information that it was almost perfect.
Thank you.
So I have another question. This is really great effort, so thanks to you and the Google team for bringing out this kind of critical data set at such an important time. And we are really grateful for all the hard work of taking this data to not just the district level but to the panchayat level where this could be further utilized and disseminated at villages. What is the data sharing policy which Google India and Red Cross Society is currently working with? How is this data being shared between the agencies, and is this data also being shared with other agencies at the moment?
So far as data sharing is concerned, it is CWC which is sharing data with Google, and whatever information Google is giving, it is in open domain. There is no data sharing policy for that. Anyone can access it. Whosoever is having a mobile phone, smartphone, internet, and location is on, can access this information.
The most interesting part is even not only at the panchayat level, even below the panchayat level, at what level is what we are working at, and even a household at the what level, if they have the mobile phone.
I think there is some gap on the internet, but we could get the sense from Dr. Anthony that data is mostly available in public domain, and from what level to they're trying to get mobile phone data.
It's just like, can you hear? Can you hear this?
Now we can hear you. Could you repeat just the last part, like from what level to mobile phone where you were?
Yeah. Even a small household at the water level, in the last time what we call the last household, if they have a mobile phone, with the internet, they will be able to get information, even alert. So all the people who are in that alert zone will be able to get alert message itself, provided there is internet. So also working on methodologies, if in case internet is not available, how do the message gets conveyed? This also we are working on it. Because for that we need the government mechanism. From the DDMA, from the district magistrate, there should be another authentic message coming in to make sure that the message what is given down on the mobile phone is authentic. So then there is another way of getting that information. And also we are also tracking through community radio, which are located in several locations, several parts of the states and districts. So through that also we are able to pass the information to the last mile or the last household, we can say. So that they can save lives and save their properties, which is the basic aim of our project, like saving life and saving this or livelihoods also.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Anthony. That's really motivating. Just a follow-up question there. How has been the response of DDMAs on this? Because you mentioned already 4 districts have been activated. How has been the response in these districts by the DDMAs?
We happen to meet few of all the DDMAs. The DC of the district, he is heading the DDMA, and also he is president of District Red Cross branch. That is his another role as a DC of the district branch. So in both the roles, we met him and we have apprised him about the project, and we got good response from them, all the 4 of them. Panchayat was our smallest unit to work with. The idea of ward came from there only. They said that the panchayats are big enough and not all the villages they are vulnerable to flood. So you go for ward to achieve your targets most quickly. So they all are aware about it, and we have got good response, not only in Assam, in Bihar also.
Thanks a lot, Bindu ma'am. I'm just curious about what are the challenges you are facing, or if at all you are planning to expand it to other locations in India.
Nothing restricting us for expansion as of now. Only thing we have to increase the human resources part and work very closely with the government, because ASDMA is fully authorized. But we are Red Cross is actually the district magistrate is as already mentioned. District magistrate is also the president of the Red Cross unit, whichever it is. So there is a connection between, there's a link between the Red Cross operations and the government operations basically. But from the Red Cross, the only advantage to supplement and complement the government effort is that we have the Red Cross, Indian Red Cross has grassroots volunteers at the ward level to respond. Where from the district administration, maybe the last person is Gram Mukhya or Gram Buddha. So we have a set of volunteers who are already closely working with Gram Buddha to activate the ward contingency plan, and that is being confirmed and approved by the Gram Buddha, based on which the preparedness part starts as documented in the ward contingency plan, for example. The expansion is not at all a problem. We can expand. We are looking at expansion also very soon. But only as a pilot project, we have come with 4 districts as of now. This will be really expanded in the coming days with more of additional human resources and also the additional input, technical input, and also the other resources will be added into it. Okay. Is it answering your question?
Yes, definitely. And also, was there any impact study done regarding the project? Like, just about either as simple as the number of alerts raised and how many how accurate they are, and with different parameters.
So Google started giving these alerts in the year 2019, and they piloted this in Bihar. We were not in this project. They did this with their own resources, and the accuracy of the message was fine. Later on, we partnered with Google and IFRC in the year 2020. There were code restrictions and so many things. We tried to train the volunteers through online mode, but all the content, it was in English language, and not everyone was well conversant with the online mode. It was very difficult to train the rural volunteers through online mode of training. We found whatever trainings we did, they were not very useful. Also, people like you, they can understand how to access the information even during non-monsoon period. But for them, if the alert is live, it is easier for them to understand. Like if we are training them during the monsoon period, the alert is live during those days, and it is easier for them to understand. Whatever training we did during the non-monsoon period, and it was sort of not very useful. Later on, we did all the trainings through physical mode again, and more training tools they were developed, and more persons were trained, and who were later on shifted to the field in the rural areas to train the other communities. Now talking about the accuracy, we have not done any impact study as of now. Whatever information we have is from the community whom we have reached. Like we disseminated 96 alerts in Bihar, and we disseminated around 40 alerts in Assam. The flood situation was not very worse in Assam last year, but in Bihar there were several flood situations, and there was also flood during the Nepal floods. Those kind of alerts were also available when there was no raining in Indian part in Bihar, but it was raining in Nepal, it was flooding in Nepal, and just because of those, flooding happened in Bihar, in Indian portion of the river, especially in Bihar. So those kind of alerts are also available, and as I mentioned, we did not do any impact study, but our community it informed us that that the alerts they were useful. They were able to shift to the safer areas timely. They could evacuate themselves, and if they have this kind of information on their palms, it is really useful. But soon we will go for a audit of this project or a study of this. Like it is only spreading the alert literacy, but the change we brought in the life of the community, that we would like to know how the theory of change applies through this project to the life of the people. That we will try to do this monsoon season, because the COVID restrictions they are also lifted, and we will be able to interact more with the community and go into community, and if we need to do some survey, that is also like in the pipeline.
Thank you so much for answering that. We just have 10 minutes left. I'll quickly take you through the work we at CDL have been trying to do in terms of flood response and preparedness in Assam. So we are starting to work in Assam on flood preparedness and response. We all know the context of floods in Assam. We are partnering with Open Contracting Partnership, where we're trying to understand, make public procurements data available in public domain, and to make these processes more transparent. Currently, we are working on a project where we're trying to identify the regions which are more vulnerable to floods in Assam, and then developing a model to help decision makers with data insights that could improve their flood preparedness and help them plan better procurements in response to floods. We are trying to understand the vulnerability to floods using three kinds of data sets: geospatial information, socioeconomic information of the area. But apart from these two, we are also trying to understand vulnerability through procurement data. So procurement data basically gives us information about what are the steps taken by the government in terms of relief material procured by them, or maintenance and repair of embankments, etc. So this is in response, what is the kind of actions government takes to respond to floods. So overlaying these three data sets, we are trying to understand, identify first the vulnerable areas in Assam, and then create reports at district and sub-district level, which could help better procurement and in turn improve better response to floods. These are some of the data sets that data sources that we've been using to develop this index, and which will later be developed into a more dynamic model depending on the frequency of data that's released by each of these data sets. So Assam government has e-procurement portal where they have released procurement information for the past 5 financial years. So we basically extracted this procurement data and tried to identify flood related tenders from this, and then we went on to geotag them. So now we have information on number of procurements or the amount spent per each district through procurements. These are some of the indicators that we are considering to define vulnerability. These include geographical characteristics, socioeconomic characteristics of the region, and also the losses due to floods in district and investment made by the government in response to floods. So most of these are, some of these are static indicators which are released only over a decade or over every year annually. But there are some indicators on which we have, which is updated much more regularly, like inundation data or flood reports, which is published on a daily basis by ASDMA. So these are the kind of indicators which are more dynamic in nature, and this could give near real-time information on which areas are vulnerable to floods, or areas which would be at a more granular level, which would be vulnerable to floods in a near real-time basis. So this is the kind of process that we are following. We first identified the indicators, then we would be developing an index to understand vulnerability, and then depending after understanding the vulnerability, we would be generating district-wise reports to further identify sub-district regions or at panchayat or block level, the regions that are vulnerable, and then advocating for preparing better procurement plans and disaster plans so that the flood response could be improved and the losses could be reduced. I'll quickly take you through the maps that these are the kind of vulnerable areas that we have based on the geographical characteristics of the region. This we then layer with the socioeconomic vulnerability of regions. So once you see, depending on every kind of data set, we have different areas that are vulnerable. There may be some areas which are more vulnerable to floods because of their geographic location, whereas some which are socioeconomically more vulnerable. We've also identified regions that are vulnerable based on fiscal indicators, that is the losses incurred due to floods in districts and the amount that is spent by the government in these districts. So by layering these three kinds of vulnerability, that is geographical, socioeconomic and fiscal, we try to identify districts that are generally more vulnerable to floods and where more attention should be paid. So now that we have the districts, we plan to go further down the district and identify sub-district areas that would be more vulnerable, and then work with DDMAs to understand what is the kind of data that's available at sub-district level and what is the frequency of its release, and then developing an index and a model based on these indicators and the information that we get at sub-district level. I'll stop now, and I would like to have feedback on this, or if anyone has any questions about this.
The presentation which Dr. Mazumdar had presented was full of information. If we can access that presentation sometime later, it would help us to understand Assam more. Just is fine. Thank you.
Sure, we'll request him and share if he agrees to it.
I have not a question but just a suggestion. Curious to know how things happen. You have been showing the entire Assam map and saying that you are collecting hazard mapping and other different aspects of social mapping with flexibility of geographic locations. Are you doing it as of now with every district? Are you covering the entire Assam in your actions now?
Sorry sir, can you repeat the question? I couldn't get the first part of it.
No, I saw from the slides that you were mentioning about hazard mapping, vulnerable mapping, and also different mappings. Is it happening now in all the districts in Assam?
Yeah, so the mapping we're trying to do for all the districts, and then we'll shortlist 10 districts where we could start, where we would go to sub-district level and understand the vulnerabilities more.
This is the map.
Yeah, so this is where these are the districts which are more vulnerable, the darker grey ones, and as the grey becomes lighter, the districts are less vulnerable, based on the three kinds of data sets that we are considering. That's geographical, socioeconomic, and fiscal data.
I think we can also depend on your source of data collection. I think which can give us a better idea to when we do the next step or next phase of intervention, we can go for more vulnerable ones and do preferences based on the information that we have. We will discuss here within the Red Cross and we'll get more support.
Sure. Are there any more questions from the participants? All right. Thank you, IRCS team, for joining and presenting your work. Hope it was a useful session for everyone. Thank you
for joining us. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.